Hi everyone, I'm Hafsah and I do art as a hobby. So I wanted to create this YouTube channel to teach you guys how to draw and sketch and paint. And I'm going to be filming a series of easy to follow, comprehensive art tutorials for beginners. And this is going to be my first video. We're going to be covering the basics of sketching and materials and shading. So very simple stuff, and let's get into it. Okay, so to start, we're going to be discussing what materials you need for today's tutorial. To start off with, you just need a sketchbook or any type of paper, really. Here I have a pretty decently sized one. I love this sketchbook. The paper is great. It's very nice and thick, and it's just a great sketchbook overall. So this is the one I'm using. You can honestly just use any type of paper. Don't even worry about it. And then next, we have a pencil. Okay, mine isn't super sharpened or anything, but you know, whatever pencil you can get your hands on. I know in a lot of art tutorials, they show all the pencils like 6B, 2H, 2B, all those different types, and that just deals with how hard or soft the lead is and thus what values you can get from the pencil, but we don't need that today. Just a regular number 2 pencil, or you can use a mechanical, whatever you got on hand. And then next, my pencil does have an eraser, but having another one on hand is always a good idea, especially to erase big sections. See, this is like a really well-loved eraser. I use it a lot, but it's best to just start off with the new eraser. It'll just erase better. And optional is a piece of kneaded eraser. So what kneaded eraser is, it's an eraser, but the thing is, it can stretch out and fold in on itself, and it's just very good at picking up graphite. A lot of people use it when they're doing charcoal. I really like these types of erasers, and they're really good for sketching. So if you have one on hand, use it. And another thing that I don't have picture but also can make your life a lot easier is using a tissue or any sort of blender. If you've ever seen a blender, they're like pieces of paper like wrapped up and kind of pointy shaped. Very good for blending. A tissue also does the same thing, and it's just a lot of times I use my finger and just gets really dirty and messy. If you use a tissue or blender, you can avoid that. So that's it. Let's get into actually drawing. Okay, so now to start actually drawing. So first we're gonna start off with learning how to actually sketch things, because I feel like a lot of people don't even know how to just draw a good outline that sets the base for adding in values and shading and all that other jazz. So to start off with, for sketching, a lot of times people just press down really hard and then draw their thing. They commit immediately. So someone's drawing a circle, they might approach it like that, which is not a good idea. So when you're sketching, you kind of just want to make very small, very light lines. You know, you don't want to commit to a shape. And the best thing about it is that if you decide you don't like your shape, you can go back and you can create a different line. You can make it different because you haven't actually committed to anything. Whereas here, I can't really adjust anything without having to erase. And even when I erase, it leaves like a mark, so it just doesn't look good. When we're actually sketching, we just want to make these small chicken scratch light lines. You want to make lots of them, you know, just keep on going around. And then within the lines, you're gonna see a shape start to appear. And once you found a line that you like, you can kind of go back and define it a little bit more. And I think another mistake that people make is after doing this, they go in really hard and they commit immediately to a really hard shape. Even if it's a good shape, you want to always keep your outlines light. And I discuss why when we get into shading. But yeah, so once you have like a nice shape, be it a circle, if you wanted to do like a square, yeah, so whatever it is, always just start off with your nice, sketchy, soft lines. And then the next thing to talk about is shading. So there are lots of different ways to shade. Basically, when you're shading, all you're doing is defining your light parts, your dark parts, your midtones of whatever you're drawing. So to do that, the most traditional way is to just press down harder where you want dark parts, and then you can shade lighter where you want light parts. This could possibly be a mid-tone, and then this would be a lighter tone. And for our pure highlights, we just leave the paper white. You don't even need to shade it in. So one of the hardest parts is actually getting it to transition from here to here. So to do that, you need to gradually decrease the pressure as you go to a lighter value. So if I was to go from dark, I'd start off really dark, right? You start off pressing your pencil down really hard, then gradually just start to press it down a little bit less, and you can see how I'm getting a bit of a different value here. See, I'm getting something that's close to this mid-tone. And now that I'm at this mid-tone and it's pretty well blended here, then we can go to a lighter shade. And you're just decreasing the pressure a little bit. And there you go. It's just kind of fading off. And you just need to remember that it can't just be dark and then you decrease the pressure a little bit and then you decrease it a little bit more. You need to be continuously decreasing, not just in sections. Like, you don't want it to just be dark here, then you just go into a light here, and you just go into your light, because this just doesn't look blended at all, as compared to this where we gradually made it lighter. And I'm just gonna zoom in so you guys can see that a little bit better. There you go. So basically that's what we do for shading. There are some other techniques to shade, such as hatching. So for hatching, you do multiple lines. So that would be hatching. But the thing about hatching is you create light values and dark values by having lines closer together in some parts and lines farther apart. So for example, on this square, let's say I just wanted it to decrease and be light over here and be dark here. So I'd hatch very close together here, and then gradually I'd pull the lines apart less, and it would give the illusion of it going lighter. Usually when we're shading things like circles and stuff like that, we don't just use hatching. A more common thing is to also use cross-hatching. So cross-hatching is hatching, but you're usually just doing it two ways, maybe 3 ways. It just depends. So with cross-hatching here, we do it one way, and then you don't have to actually do it perpendicular to this line. You could do it however. Like if I wanted to go... Basically, what cross-hatching does is it darkens our values in some areas, and it makes it lighter in some areas. So here, I could do more cross-hatching, and then here, and it just gives it more sophisticated value, and just makes it look more dark and more light. We get more contrast, essentially. So if I wanted to do that here, I could just and then getting lighter. And yeah, so that's also another great way to shade. And then something else that you might see, this is more in paintings, but I have seen people use it in drawings. It's like stippling. I think that's how it's pronounced. You basically just make a bunch of little dots close together to get a dark value. So this could potentially be like a dark or a mid-tone or something like that. And then as you get lighter, they go less together, so they just become farther apart. I personally don't use this that much in my drawings, but it's another option to explore. A famous example of this would be that one painting of the people in the park. It's at the Art Institute of Chicago, and it's made completely out of these little values, out of these little dots. So yeah, that's another thing to consider. So when we're shading the sphere, you kind of want to think about your light sources even before you get into your shadows and your lights and your darks and actually shading. You gotta define the light source. You gotta know where it's gonna be light and where it's gonna be dark. So in a circle, you'll commonly see a light source like here. So let's just say this is our light source. This is where the light or the sun or whatever is hitting our sphere. So we're gonna define a place of highlight. So I always outline the highlight very lightly, and this outline usually ends up getting erased anyways, but you have to kind of know where your lightest spot is going to be. And this is the spot where I'm not going to shade anything in. It's just going to be completely white. And then you want to know where your dark shadows are. So this would be what we call a core shadow, would be around this area. And then we'd have a mid-tone around here. And then it would just get light here. So that's the parts of our circle. And then there's a few other parts that we should discuss. So to do this, we're gonna need like some sort of surface that it's sitting on. So maybe it's on a table or something, but since the light source is coming here, it's gonna have a shadow. And the shadow will just be this elongated oval shape, something like that. And yeah, I don't like how this is coming out here, so that would kind of be what a shadow would look like. And this shadow is going to be one of the darkest parts of the circle, so even darker than what we have here with our core shadow, it's going to be darker. And you should always remember that when you're drawing things, the shadow is always the darkest part. And then there's something interesting that happens once you put something on a table and you're looking at the shadow. So you have this very small area of light right here. You can't really see it because of all my outlines, but if I go here, and then let's say this is where my core shadow is, there's gonna be this very small area of light, and it's coming from a reflection of the table because you have the light source here, and usually some light bounces back to the very, very end. So this is what we call reflective light, or yeah, basically reflective light. I thought there was a different name, but I can't think of it right now. So yeah, there's just going to be a very small highlight near the end of your sphere, is right before the shadow starts, whenever you're drawing anything. So yeah, this can be applied to faces, this can be applied to, you know, any other round object. So this is really important to remember, the parts of the shadow. So basically to start, you can just kind of go in, you know, don't worry about having a super refined technique. We're just gonna play around a little bit. You know, we don't need to make it perfect. We really don't need to commit to anything. And especially if this is one of your first times drawing, don't worry about it if it doesn't look exactly like you wanted it to. There's always a learning curve here. And, you know, if you're feeling like you're not liking it, just erase it and start over. Or you can move to a different one. Basically, you're just going to be dark here. Going to have our dark values in our core shadow. And then we're going to kind of move into our mid-tone. Remember, just gradually decrease the pressure. And another important thing to talk about when shading is when you're shading, you don't want to be shading like this. It's hard to cover long distances, wide distances, I guess, and, you know, it's just inefficient. One way to shade that I see a lot of people do is on the side of the pencil. You know, you can cover lots of distance with it. And another way is just to use like more of the side of your pencil. You'll basically have the same effect, and it just makes shading a lot easier, and you'll get a lot smoother values. So yeah, keep that in mind when you're shading. Sometimes what you'll see me use, or you'll see other people use, is a very long, like a pencil that has a very long piece of lead, and that's achieved by shaving off the top of this part. So you literally just take an X-Acto knife and you just start shaving it up this way, and you make the lead really long, and then that way shaving up the side of your pencil is so much easier. You get such a long value, you get such a long, like, pencil mark, I guess, and it makes it a lot easier. But anyways, yeah, try playing around with that. Obviously, if you have an X-Acto knife or any type of knife, really. And yeah, it's really great way to shade. And see, with the side of my pencil, it makes it a lot easier. You can try that out here. Anyway, so as I move into my mid-tone, I'm getting lighter, decreasing pressure. Don't worry about too much. Don't worry about making it perfect, really. It's okay. This is just for practice, and it's just to test it out. Okay, and then as you can see, one of the more important things is to just keep it a little bit darker on the edges, like I'm doing here. Even where the highlight is, you're still gonna have a little bit of value around the edge, just because things tend to get darker at the edges. And that's what you'll have. And then here I have like my little shadow and my little highlight. I keep on mixing that up. And then yeah, and then here is actually where you can come in with your tissue or your blender if you have one. Again, I don't have one on hand, but if you wanted to, if you see how rough these are and you're not liking that, you come in and you can blend it. I'm gonna just do it with my finger, but anyways, you can see that part that I blended. I just have a much smoother value there, and it makes it just gives it a little bit more of a realistic touch. The thing with blending though is that sometimes you lose your darks and your lights, so you kind of just gotta go in. See, I don't like how dark it got there, so I'm just kind of erasing it out, and then I'll go in again with my pencil, leaving my finger, and I'm just pulling that value up. And yeah, so remember, I'm leaving this little bit of reflective light part. And here, now that I need a more precise shadow, I'm coming in with the tip of my pencil. Okay, and so I have my little light there, and just going back in. Remember to always keep your darks dark and your lights light. I think that's one of the more important things in drawing. Oftentimes what you'll see with beginners is they don't start off with much contrast, either because they're scared to get too dark and commit to that dark, or just because they don't know how important it is to contrast things. And you really need to have lots of contrast, even if it seems excessive. Really, the best thing you can do for your artwork is have contrast. It makes it more interesting. It makes it just look more sophisticated. You end up getting more powerful, striking drawing rather than something weak and it's not visually appealing. So yeah, that's really important. And then we can go in with our cast shadow, shade it really dark. Alright, yeah, shadow, obviously, like I said, has to be the darkest part. Anyway, so it'll go something like that, and obviously this one isn't perfect. Yours doesn't have to be either. And yeah, this is just fun. When you start off drawing, make sure that you're having a good time doing it. Make sure that you're drawing things you like. You're practicing subjects that are fun for you. You're not forcing yourself to do stuff that isn't letting you have a good time, because the most important thing about drawing is that you're having a good time. If you hate drawing, you're never gonna want to do it. But yeah, that's basically what the basics are, and kind of just have something like that. You can see I kind of went outside the lines a little bit, and nothing a little eraser can't fix. And yeah, you can do this many times as you like. I just have like a square here. I'm sure a lot of people know to do 3D action with those sorts of things. Just kind of sketch out your little square using our chicken scratch lines, and this isn't going to be perfect, but you make lines that are parallel to each other, connect them with a straight line, good. You have a little cube. You know, pick a light source. Maybe the light is just coming straight down, and so it's going to be pretty light up here. It's going to be dark here, and it's going to be like kind of a mid-tone here. Don't worry about it too much. Just kind of let's go in with a little bit of light on the edges. Anyways, just remember, have fun, really. It's the best thing you can do for yourself. Play around, experiment, and just really have a good time. Try new things. Don't limit yourself. Don't say, I can't do this, I'm not skilled enough to draw this. Of course, it's a good idea to practice your basics, and it's a good idea, definitely, to try to improve on things you're not great at. And I am going to tell you here now, art gets really fun once you get better at it. Like, the more you improve, the more you're gonna enjoy it. Seriously. So, you know, do your best. Just try. Remember, you know, chicken scratch lines, remember gradients, how to achieve value, you know, try hatching, try cross hatching, you know, try making a circle where you achieve value by cross hatching, or even stippling if you want. Yeah, have fun. And that's basically it. Yeah, that's everything I have for you guys today. Let me know if you have any questions, comments, requests, anything like that, and I will be sure to answer and help you guys out. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next video.